Hello and welcome to today's video. I've made a lot of nib comparison videos over the last few years, and this is one I've wanted to make for quite a while. I'm a big fan of Yovo steel nibs. A lot of us are, and a lot of the pens we buy are basically holders for those nibs. So what I did was I actually got my hands on a set of steel Yovo nibs, just like this, direct from a reputable dealer who sells these nibs for Yovo. These are straight out of the factory, untouched nibs. And what I've got is I've got extra fine, medium broad, double broad, and then 1.1 millimeter stub and a 1.5 millimeter stub. And I got these pens and I swapped them in and out of this pen this is a Just Turnings pen, which we call the Force Awakens, which is a pen I absolutely love. Check out his pens, they are absolutely amazing. And over a little while, I swapped them out, inked them, all of that, did a little writing sample with each, because I wanted to compare the nib sizes untouched. We know a lot of brands like Diplomat, for instance, will tune the nibs, and they're Yovo made nibs, but they will tune them. And a lot of pen manufacturers, once again, Edison, Franklin Christoph, Just Turnings, Pens by Casey, they all tune the Yovo nibs they sell. And that means we get an amazing writing experience. But I wanted to see what they would be like basically from the factory. So I made this sheet. This is a 5x5 grid Rhodia 80 GSM page, as you can see here. The ink is Waterman Serenity Blue in all of them. And what I did was I did a little writing sample, a little smear of the ink, and then some lines over here so we can get a sense of the variation, or not necessarily the variation, but the difference between the different nib sizes. So with the extra fine, we see it is quite fine. This particular one writes, I wanted to say dry, but then when I started writing with the fine, I actually think it's pretty much in comparison. This swatch thing there, I put a bit more down than I did for some of the others, so you got a bit more smear. But you see that the way the pen writes and up close, you can definitely see that it doesn't lay down a huge amount of ink, which will be a definite advantage to some people who prefer to write with extra fine nibs because they aren't quite as wet. We do see a line jump up to the fine nib and then a bigger line jump up to the medium. The medium Yovo nib I really enjoy. It is probably my favorite stock nib from any brand. Yovo medium number 6 nib. I love it. They're wet, they allow for some shading, and Waterman Serenity Blue isn't the wettest ink going around. So it lays down a nice line. And this one, very smooth. All of these were exceptionally smooth. As I said, untouched nibs, but very smooth. When I say untouched, what I mean by that is untuned by someone after Yovo. So Yovo obviously, smooth the nibs and do the work themselves when they manufacture the nib, but not retuned beyond that. So this is, as I said, as they come from the factory. When we got to the broad, this wrote like wet. You can see the sheen, the big smear of ink. There's even sheen on the end of the smear. It just put down a bucket load of ink. This was seriously impressive. It's going to be a fun nib to write with, actually, outside of this video's preparation. I love a Yovo double broad, and I've got this fantasy of being able to tune these nibs, or grind these nibs, I should say, into architect nibs. I love architect nibs. So one of these, I've got a couple of Yovo double broads now in my collection, a couple that have been tuned by other people, and this sort of factory one that I'm considering grinding down myself, because I think that'll be a lot of fun. And I've been practicing grinding other nibs over the years, and I would love to grind myself an architect. But the double broad there lays on a lovely, rich double broad line. And then we move into the stub nibs. And of course, the stub nibs are where you go from being a round tip nib to a flat tip nib. So you get wider downstrokes and thinner cross strokes. And you see both of these give that. But you don't see a whole lot of variation between the 1.1 and the 1.5. Now, obviously, with all of these nibs, your mileage is going to vary. If the nib is tuned by someone, if it's not, if you're using different ink, different paper, all of that kind of stuff, they're all going to play a factor in how these nibs write. I just wanted to show with the same ink on the same paper, put in the same pen, and all basically direct, well, not basically, all direct from the factory. So factory to this dealer and then to me. That's how you do it. So looking at these lines up close, extra fine is quite fine. For me, that's quite fine for a Yovo extra fine. Fine is what I would sort of expect, and then medium is what I've come to know and love. We've got the medium lines sort of through here. Nice step up to the broad and a great step up to the double broad, which almost starts to look a little stubby in my opinion. Just a little bit. Then we get the 1.1 millimeter stub and the 1.5. And there's not a huge amount of difference in there. You can see a little bit of difference, particularly once again, if we look at the cross hatches and stuff there. But generally speaking, they're pretty similar nibs in these two. And others will vary, obviously. You know, that's just the way these things go. But yes, this was my Yovo nib comparison. If you're looking at getting a pen with a Yovo nib, and that's the standard, as I said, the standard sort of number 6 Yovo nib, this is in its housing that you put into the pen, then this is hopefully a bit of a guide as to the kind of thing you can expect. Generally speaking, Yovo tend to be a little more consistent than brands like Lamy, with their nibs, for instance. They tend to be a little wetter than brands like Bock. I think Yovo and Schmidt are doing wonderful things, but Yovo have been my favorite for a long time and continue to be, and that's why I wanted to show this particular comparison that was, you know, like what you can expect without any tuning when you get these nibs. So, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, hit the notifications button, all that kind of stuff. If you've got products you think I should be looking at, or if there is a way you would like to support the channel, I would love to hear from you. A big thank you to those people who helped make this video possible. So, enjoy your pens, enjoy writing, and I'll talk to you soon.